Day 4. Ligea, I hear you've got tell of a pretty dang cool saint.
Yes, today is St. Barbara's Day, 4th of December.
Ooh.
So I guess you've never heard of her. And the 4th of December is her day in Catholicism. In Orthodoxy, meaning in Eastern Europe, it's the 17th of December because they have a slightly different calendar. So if you come from an Orthodox region, then you can also watch this on the 17th. We're talking about a saint that protects people who are in danger of sudden death, usually at work. And she's also the saint of explosives and people who deal with explosives.
Color me very intrigued.
Yeah, that's why the lady has a gun. But let me show you some older depictions of her, and we'll go right in with the Orthodox picture. So that is probably the oldest depiction. And you can read the name Barbara on the right side next to her aureole.
Oh, yeah, just about.
So this is a Greek icon. But we have more Barbaras. Is a bit more modern. And there's a reason why she has a cannon in the background and a tower and a sword. She is a full military saint. So there are military organizations in the United States right now that have an Order of St. Barbara.
Wow.
Yeah, even more modern. It's not just a sword anymore and the cannon. Like, you can see that the weaponry has been updated.
Wow. But she never aged a day. Amazing.
Right. Okay, and here is a depiction that is more traditional, and that is her father beheading her.
Oh.
So, what exactly happened? I'll tell you the story. We don't have much data, and that is something that is true for a lot of saints around this time in the late Roman Empire or in the Dark Ages, because the Romans were really good clerks, and they documented everything, but early Christians were not very good clerks. And then in the Dark Ages, there were no Romans anymore, so people didn't write down a lot. That's why a lot of these saints in antiquity and in the early Middle Ages are not very well documented. And in St. Barbara's case, she has been thrown out of the official Catholic calendar in 1969, but she's still in the saint calendars where you can look up your saint's day because she is immensely popular. She was born in the mid-3rd century AD, so after Christ. And she also died at the end of that century, but we don't have exact dates, and we don't even know the exact place where she was born. So this could be Nicomedia, because she's also known as Barbara of Nicomedia. And careful, there are 2 of those at least. There is also one in Greece. This one is in what is now Turkey, but used to be Greece back then. And in fact, the name Nicomedia and even the name Barbara are Greek names. So you can tell they're not Turkish.
Right.
This is one possibility. And the other one is Baalbek in what is now the Lebanon. And this was called Heliopolis back in the days. So Heliopolis means the city of the sun in Greek. This would have been pretty much the same Roman province at that time. And you will see that because I have a map for when we talk about St. Nicholas, who was from the same neck of the woods. So she's from that area, and she has a rich father who's kind of paranoid. So you probably remember in the United States, when you take out a girl, And her dad sits on the porch with his rifle over his knees and waits for you to come home.
Naturally, yeah.
Worse than that.
Oh, wow.
So her father had the idea that he needed to preserve his daughter, and he would only give her away for marriage, so no dating at all, and he locked her up in a tower. That is why she has
Very
the tower.
Rapunzel.
Yes, but she didn't make it out with her hair, so she was in that tower from childhood on, and I have no idea how she did this, but she became a Christian while she was in the tower. So I guess she had servants who were Christians and who told her about the faith and got her interested in it. Because she couldn't leave. And based on this, on being a Christian, she turned down the first marriage offer that came in. And her father didn't like this because he was very picky with the guys he would let near his daughter. So there had already been a lot of negotiation going on before the offer even came in, before he would accept something like that. And then she said, "Oh no, I don't want someone who's not Christian." Her father didn't like this very much, but he tried to appease her and he built her a new bathhouse. And she continued being very Christian because that bathhouse was supposed to have 2 little windows. And she arranged for 3 windows to be built into the bathhouse that symbolized the Christian Trinity. And her father found out and was not amused. And he had enough of her. So he reported her to the Roman prefect of that province. His name is Marcinianus, and he lived from 286 to 305. So he didn't live during that time. He was prefect during that time. Sorry. So we have an idea when she may have died. It was at the end of the 3rd century, so not from 300 to 305, but somewhere between 286 and 300. And the prefect immediately said, "Yeah, that's not good. Let's torture her." But she held on to her faith. And during the torture, some miracles happened, which is why she became a saint. So one thing was that they tried to torture her with fire. They would use a torch and would try to burn her. But every time they tried that, the flame would go out before it reached her skin. That was a bit spooky. So they tortured her with other devices, with knives and sticks and so on. So she had wounds from the torture, but they would be healed every morning when they came back into her. So miraculously, her wounds would close overnight, and they could hurt her, but they couldn't really harm her so badly that she would have bled to death. So at one point, they just gave up. They couldn't change her mind, and they brought in her own father, who got the official order to kill her by beheading her. That happened on December the 4th, and this is why it's St. Barbara's Day. And the miracles continued after her death. So her father walked home from the execution of his daughter, and he was hit by lightning, and his whole body was consumed by flames after this. He died the same day as her. And then her tomb became a site of miracles. That is the backstory of St. Barbara.
It's quite a story.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that she is not a poor victim. She is someone who became a saint and a protector of people who are in danger. So let me show you this. I made a little diagram. So there you have a picture of St. Barbara.
It's awesome.
Yay! So she is one of the 14 holy helpers, and let me quickly show you the holy helpers. That's a group of 14 saints in Catholicism that have specific functions, and it's a group of men and women. So they don't just solve 14 problems. Each of them has multiple skills. So when you have any sort of problem in Catholicism, you can pray to your saintly helper, and they will probably take care of it. And she is one of that group. So that is the green part on the right side of the diagram. In general, she's someone who helps people in sudden danger or people who face death.
Right.
And it's strongly related to work. So if you're just in danger because you're a dumbass, then she won't help you. She's good against thunder, lightning, and fire, and all explosives and gunpowder accidents.
Wow.
And naturally, she became a saint of the military and also of engineering and mining, because from the 1600s on in Europe, people started mining with the help of explosives. So this was a good while after she had died. This was not even Middle Ages anymore. This was early modern times. But as soon as miners and the military started using explosives, they remembered that there was Saint Barbara, and they thought, well, she can magically turn off flames, and her father was hit by lightning, so she probably has the power of lightning. We should use her as a saint against explosions.
Yeah.
That is the thought process.
That's some decent logic.
Let's go into mining. So she's a saint of mine engineering and also of miners themselves. So all kinds of underground and tunnel workers. So this means that she also expands her patronage to people who work in subway tunnels, for example, people who work with electricity in subway tunnels specifically. She's also a saint for them, not just the miners. Then connected to mining, we have metallurgy, which means she is also a saint of societies that teach geology, and even of university departments and geologists. And she's a saint that helps commemorate engineering accidents. So when something goes wrong with your engineering, then you call Saint Barbara. For example, you have Saint Barbara shrines in mines and tunnels in several European countries. And there is usually a rite and a blessing when you open a new tunnel in a mine. Then you make this little shrine, and then you ask for Saint Barbara's blessing. That is in multiple European countries. She's also invoked to commemorate people who have died at work in mines, for example, or in the subway as subway workers. The whole thing with engineering leads her over to her military function. So it's not just mine engineering, it's also military engineering, which means she's a saint of armorers, gunsmiths, and cannon workers, and everyone who works with explosives and with guns. So she's the gun saint. That's why she has that huge gun in the first picture.
Awesome.
Then you have military organizations that have her as a patron saint. And one is the Italian Navy. And I will show pictures for everything, but let us go through the sheet first. You have a lot of former and still active Commonwealth countries connected to the connected to the United Kingdom. So the UK itself, and then the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Ireland. And you even have an Order of Saint Barbara in the United States. So I will show you pictures of their medals, and I will show you pictures of places that are named after her and her organizations. And then she has some other random functions. So, for example, she also protects mathematicians and the topic of mathematics. And of course, those are people who are at danger at work. When you're a school teacher in mathematics.
Of course, because everybody's gonna just like beat you up or something, right?
Exactly. The math nerds, basically.
Oh.
And firefighters in France. So in France, they thought, well, she extinguishes fire, so maybe we should use her as a saint for firefighters.
Yeah, that checks out.
Makes sense. So these shrines, I will show you the tunnel shrines. These are some of the tunnel shrines. And miners have their celebrations for St. Barbara. For example, you have tunnel feast, as you can see in the last picture. There it's coming. So this takes place in a very modern mining tunnel, and you can see the machine on the right side. So this isn't just mining with like some dynamite or something like that. It's much more planned out and much safer for the people dealing with it. Then you have a French miner. That is the first picture, the gentleman in sepia brown, who's just sitting there and smiling. That is a French miner. And the guys in the black uniforms with the red feathers on their hats, that is not a military order. They're carrying St. Barbara, and this is a German mining society that celebrates St. Barbara's Day.
So cool.
These shrines are very often found in Poland, the Czech Republic, Germany, and Austria. And they have these very long and very elaborate blessing ceremonies attached to them. So in none of these countries, it's just the shrine. You don't just install something like that, but it's usually with a blessing ceremony. Then you also have some cave shrines. And I don't know why it's cave shrines. Maybe because she's related to mining. So these are the shrines or chapels. One is in Austria, then you have one in Greece, you have one in Slovenia, and one in Armenia. And
Very cool.
sometimes they're in places that are difficult to reach, so right inside the mountain with a very small hole to get through. Then let's go to the military. So I promised to show you the Italian military. This is a ceremony for St. Barbara because she is the patron saint of the Italian Navy. And well, you can see the sailors from behind. You can't really see that much, but they have a big procession, and they also celebrate St. Barbara's Day. What is probably closer to you is the Order of St. Barbara and other societies in the United States. So there you have an awesome T-shirt. You have Death on his horse. You see the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
And St. Barbara is standing in front of him with a sword.
It's quite something.
That comes right out of that military tradition. These guys, for example, are called Thunder Soldiers because she's also the patron saint of thunder and lightning and, of course, explosives. How cool is that, being called Thunder Soldiers?
It is a pretty cool title, gotta say.
Then you have the actual Order of St. Barbara. And the Order of St. Barbara is a United States military order that includes the artillery and the Air Force. So you can see this is the logo. And you can also see the medal that has St. Barbara on the front side and the cannon on the back side.
Yeah.
Like even the United States Marines have Saint Barbara as a patron saint, and you can see the lightning there.
Yeah.
And field artillery, for example, also Saint Barbara.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's the military stuff. So, let me see. Yeah, there is even a celebration of her in the Middle East among Middle Eastern Christians. So this is called Eid il-Burbara or Eid il-Berbara. The name varies. It means Barbara. And Eid means the festival.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
this takes place in the Middle East. In countries like Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Palestine, and Turkey. And in Turkey, a miracle happened because you have Muslims in Turkey and they're Alawites. So Alawites are the Muslims you don't hear about because they're not quite as Muslim as most Muslims. For example, they do drink alcohol and they do eat pork. So they technically follow the same rules as other Muslims who are a bit stricter, but they're quite lenient and they won't punish you. So the Alawites have Christian neighbors in Turkey, and these Christian neighbors celebrate the festival of Saint Barbara. So the Alawites decided, yeah, we're Muslims, but let's just join in because they have really interesting stuff going on and they have nice food. So let's celebrate with them. And this means that Saint Barbara, a Christian saint, is actually worshipped in Islam too, at least in a tiny pocket of Islam in Turkey.
Wow.
She's that cool.
That is very cool.
Yes. So other celebrations include celebrations of St. Barbara's Day by geology departments at universities, for example. So they also have their feasts. And then, of course, you have the firefighters. And what is super interesting is that St. Barbara got teamed up with a Santeria deity. And do you know what Santeria is?
No.
Okay, it comes from West Africa, and I think you know what voodoo is. You have a certain idea of what voodoo is.
Yeah.
Those are West African religions and natural religions, but they merged with Christianity and also with native beliefs of the Americas. So voodoo and Santeria are quite similar in this. They also accept deities or saints from other religions of the area where they landed, in the Caribbean, for example, and they accept Christian saints. So they have a deity or Orisha, and Orisha is their term for deity, who is called Chango or Shango. And in West Africa, the name is closer to Shango. So let me show you where that guy comes from. This dark territory is the territory where the Yoruba language is spoken. And it's a language that is a little bit bigger than just the territory of its original tribe. So you know how it is with English. English is not just spoken in England, but it kind of spread across the world. So you have an original Yoruba tribe, and their language spread around to other tribes' territories for various reasons. And these Yoruba people came up with the religion that turned into Santeria in the Americas. And I'll show you some Yoruba people. And then native West Africans, but they're actually not as dark as you would expect. So some of them are pretty light-skinned, as you can see. They have very fashionable dresses, and that is something that is often copied by African Americans. So quite often when you see African Americans want to make a statement and want to look especially traditional, then they copy the Yoruba style.
Okay.
Probably not the white face paint, but yeah.
No.
You've
Definitely
seen
the kind of
something.
outfit style. You're right, though. It's very
Yeah, it's recognizable. It's very nice. So let me show you Shango or Shango. This is him alone, and he is a deity that is very much feared because he's the deity of fire, thunder, and lightning. So exactly the same things as Saint Barbara. And that's why they've paired him up with her. So especially in the Afro-Cuban Santeria, he is paired with her. And this has a really weird effect. So I can show you a merged picture of the two where the faces merge into each other. And his head is giant. Her head is just very small.
I see.
Pretty
Pretty
trippy. Yeah, there you have another one. So he throws lightnings, and she is just this very polite, late antiquity lady.
just there.
Yeah, and these are representations of Saint Barbara alone in Santeria. So that's how they picture her. And you can tell that in the second picture, for example, there are elements that you might recognize from voodoo, like the rooster. So she has not only been hijacked by Turks, but also by the Santeria religion.
Interesting.
And it's really cool that people think she's great and want to have her in their religions, because that doesn't happen very often.
True.
So you get an idea for the vibe. And you can tell that there are depictions of Christian figures, like the Virgin Mary with a child in that one picture on the yellow vase. And with the candles and everything and the chalices, it looks a lot like what we expect from Christianity. But you also have these elements with the glass pearls or with the rather weird-looking vases that are more West African. So she strayed pretty far away from her native Greece or Lebanon. But as you can tell, she's very adaptable, so people just like her. And she has a really cool Christmas feature. That is what we're coming to now. You need to go outside and cut some twigs from birches or fruit trees like apples or cherry trees, because we're doing something with that. I'll wait for you.
Yeah, I'll just nip outside and find an apple tree real quick. I'm sure they're totally nearby.
Okay, I'll tell you what we do with them, and then you can do that later. The thing is, on St. Barbara's Day, when you cut these twigs from fruit trees or from birch trees, and you bring them inside into a heated room, and you put them in water, then it takes about 3 weeks for them. So until Christmas, so the twigs will sprout blossoms.
Okay. So it's another bizarre little way of counting down to Christmas?
Yes, that is one thing, that it takes about 21 days for them to blossom. But the other thing is, it's the same motive again, dark versus light, and the light coming back and life coming back. So you take something from the garden that looks dead in winter, like a twig from a fruit tree. You bring it inside, and it's like a small miracle that it starts blossoming around Christmas time. And of course, this is all very much explainable. So if you ask a botanist, or even just if you employ basic logics, then you know, of course, that the plant is confused and thinks it's spring because it's inside now. So it starts blossoming because the temperatures are higher, which triggers the blossoming.
Right.
And it's really not an actual miracle, but it looks like a small miracle. And when people had houses that were so good that they kept the warmth in, they could bring in these twigs and they could make them blossom.
Why are they called St. Barbara's twigs?
Because you usually bring them in on St. Barbara's Day, and then it takes 3 weeks.
Oh, got it.
So
Got it.
they're on time for Christmas.
Okay, that's why. Because I was sitting here like, what do fruit trees have to do with patron saint of like fire, thunder, lightning, and near death? But no, because it typically would happen on St. Barbara's. Got it.
Yeah, so not something that is specifically related to her patronages, but it's just her day that is the day to do this if you want them to blossom around Christmas time.
Right. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I see the connections.
And that is something that is very reliable, that actually works, and it works in 99% of all cases. If it's warm enough and you keep the twigs in water, so they will do that. And again, this is the theme of life coming back.
Awesome.
Yeah, you're resurrecting something that is dead just in time for Christmas. And as we've already said in the other video, it's not just that Christ is born on Christmas. You also have things that are related to being reborn, because that is something that will happen to him later. So when you talk about Christmas, it's also, in a Christian sense, important to talk about resurrection, because that's in the baby's future. And from the point of view of heathens, it's of course that you're trying to beat the darkness of winter and the death of winter by bringing something back to life. And that is a topic that we will talk about when we're talking about Christmas trees, because that is the same concept.
Cool. Okay.
So, what else do we have? We have namesakes. So, yes, Santa Barbara in California was discovered by a Spanish man named Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo, and he discovered it on December the 4th. So we already have St. Barbara's name attached to it because it's her saint's day. He named it after her, and there is another thing that may have influenced his decision to name it after her. So one thing is that the Spanish were really big with their names. They liked to name things after saints. So if you land somewhere, then you pick the saint's name and you name that place after the saint, and you pick the day of the saint that you arrived. So he did that with her, but he also may have taken into account that this place was called California. So we have two Latin words. There is one theory about California, how it got its name. One theory is that there was an Amazon queen living in California, like matriarchy, and that is her personal name. But the other theory is that it's just Latin. And the Spanish did that a lot. They used a lot of Latin, and Spanish itself is very close to Latin. So there are these Latin words that are calidus and fornax. Calidus means warm or hot, and fornax is a word that you have in English, but it's written a little bit differently. So essentially, California means hot oven.
Yeah, that tracks. It is.
And it's Southern California.
Dry and hot.
He, of course, knew this backstory of St. Barbara, and he didn't just pick the day because it was her day. He didn't just pick her name related to the day, but he may have thought, it's damn hot here. And who do I know who can extinguish flames?
I see. There's multi-layered thinking, perhaps.
Right, there may be this backstory to it. We don't know that for sure, but we know that he named Santa Barbara after St. Barbara. Something fell down. Okay, no problem. It's paper. I moved too much. Okay. Apart from that, and apart from this, we have something else. So, there is also a school named Sainte Barbe, and Sainte Barbe is the French name. So it's they don't say Barbara, they just keep it short and say Barbe. That is named after her. And you have one in England that is named after her. So it's in Portsmouth, and it's on an island that is called Whale Island. And it's also known as HMS Excellent. And there is the Gunnery School of the Royal Navy on that island that is named after the saint. It's called St. Barbara's. Very fitting for a gunnery school.
Sure is.
Yeah. Another weird thing is that a class of drugs is named after her. Barbiturates are named after St. Barbara.
Of course. Of course. Oh, man.
And these are drugs that are meant to relax people, that are anti-anxiety drugs. And they were named after St. Barbara by an artilleryman. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe because her wounds healed so quickly. So she must have been quite calm because she wasn't fearing death. That could be an explanation. This happened in 1865 in Germany. So some artilleryman talked to a field surgeon, said, "Hey, you have some really good drugs there. Let's name them after our patron saint."
Yeah, she's been a busy saint, huh?
Yeah, she does a lot. That's why research took so long.
I understand.
The last thing is Santa Barbara. Again, in Spanish and Italian and in French, it's again Sainte Barbe. So this is an old-fashioned word for a powder magazine of a ship or a fortress. It's not in use anymore, as far as I can tell, but they used to call their powder magazines Santa Barbara.
Huh. So they wouldn't potentially accidentally explode or something. Right.
Yeah, so no accidents can happen when it's named after the saint. She'll take care of it.
Yeah, it's all tracking. This is it's quite something.
Okay, great. We're closing with some delicious food. So celebrations of St. Barbara's Day on December the 4th or December the 17th in Orthodox countries include some very specific sweets. And there is one that had its origin in Greece, but it's really widespread. And that is something that is called Varvara Koliva. And Koliva is a sort of a porridge, but a very solid porridge. And for St. Barbara's Day, they make it a little bit more liquid, so it's like a more runny porridge. Yeah, I mean, you'll see that this is quite dry in some cases, so it really looks like I don't even know how to say this. It looks like granola.
Yeah, some of it, and then other ones look. I wouldn't really know how to.
So yeah, it can be very dry. So this is made of wheat berries, and they call this a wheat berry pudding or a wheat berry porridge. And remember, this is the traditional koliva that they eat for other occasions too. But St. Barbara's koliva, or Varvara koliva. Okay, and even the Christians in the Middle East also have this one, but it looks more like the regular version and not like the St. Barbara version. So this looks more like granola in the Middle East. They don't like it runny. Okay. Then we have St. Barbara's cannonballs, also from Greece.
Cannonballs.
And cannonballs. So they're also known as Greek donuts.
Ah.
And the Greek word reads lokomadis. Tiny, round pieces of dough that are similar to donuts.
Awesome.
Yeah, they look really good when they have a bit of honey drizzled on them and some walnut.
That sounds nice.
Right, so they are given to soldiers and to visitors. And I understand the connection with soldiers because they're also called St. Barbara's cannonballs. So, yeah. But why do you give them to visitors? Like, are you trying to scare visitors? Like, this is coming for you, but bigger and made of metal if you piss us off.
I was hoping it would be more something like, this is a tiny blessing of Saint Barbara, and she's gonna protect you or something. But yeah, you could be right.
Hopefully. Here you go. You have some sweets, and it's a threat.
This is the nice one. Wait till you see the real cannibal.
Okay, good. And there is also a Middle Eastern version. So that is very close to the Greek food that they're eating for St. Barbara's feast. And there's no walnut on it, but I think it's also covered in honey. So it looks like the other cannonballs pretty much. Oh, I actually don't have kutia. That's why I didn't show you that.
Fair.
But kutia is the Ukrainian version of the runny porridge. So even the Ukrainians have it. The Greeks have it. They invented it. Then it went to Ukraine, and then it went to the Middle East. Or at the same time as it went to Ukraine, it went to the Middle East. They're also eating that. So there is really only one thing left, and that is lobiani. And thankfully, I found pictures with the name. So lobiani is a Georgian bean bread, and we're not talking about Georgia in the United States, but Georgia in the Caucasus Mountains.
Right.
That is south of Russia.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're really big with their bread, so their flatbread and their pizza. And they don't call it pizza; they call it khachapuri. But it's basically a cheesy pizza without tomatoes. And lobiani is just a flatbread filled with mashed beans. So great. So we're done with St. Barbara. So you can go and cut some twigs now and try the miracle for Christmas.
I'll, you know what? Okay, I'll see if I can find a birch tree, and if I do, I'll get some twigs. I'll do a little video of it today, and then I'll do it for 24th, and we'll see how we do. That's great.
Yes, let's see whether it blossoms.
Yeah.
What do you think of the whole history of Saint Barbara? Because I know that she's not very well known, even among people who are believers. She's kind of a minor saint, although she is, on the other side, really, really popular. So how did this hit you?
For me, I found it interesting because it clearly is something that I have seen before, but it never really fully clicked that they were all the same saint. Because yet again, it's one of those things where, you know, whether it be religious reasons or different countries and stuff, there might be saints with similar or the same name, but that doesn't mean they're always the same saint. So the fact that all of these Saint Barbaras are the same, I found to be really fascinating and quite interesting. I found her story a bit kind of weird, but a lot of saint stories are, so it's not really that crazy. But no, I thought that it's incredible that she's attached to so many different things and still being well respected even these days. I think it's quite something.
Yes, and I find it really cool that she's not just one of these very docile female saints. You know, very often they, even when they're martyrs, they are just much more domestic. So they don't deal with weapons, they don't deal with mining and that kind of stuff. So she has a really interesting patronage. And that sets her apart from other female saints. So she's kind of the boss babe among the saints.
Well, it's okay. Well, how about that Day 4 down? Thank you so much to my YouTube members and Patreon members for all the love and support. It's thanks to people like you that we can keep growing.